flag it like we all know you do, which we didn't quite admit to that at the very beginning, but we're admitting that once a property sells, you guys reevaluate to almost exactly for what the property sells.
I would not say that it reevaluates almost exactly.
It's been my
flag.
survey for property owners that have purchased new buildings up and down Main Street, and that's neither here nor there.
Well,
but
if
it's
an
an
arm's
interesting
length transaction,
it's an interesting correlation, is what I'm saying.
But if it's an arm's length transaction, why is that not an indicator of the market value?
Because the risk of the
properties?
business model that goes into a building has zero to do with the actual valuation of the building when it comes to the value of taxing it.
That's not correct.
So you're saying a business that goes in and pays $500,000 for a building that was on the market for $100,000, you're going to tax it on $500,000?
No, I didn't say that.
Why
Why would they pay $500,000 when it's only worth $100,000?
Because they have a $2 million business that they can put in it. Or they're getting free taxes like some of the other people on Main Street that have free taxes for 10 years on their buildings.
They might pay a premium, but not that kind of a premium. They might pay $120,000, $150,000, but then they come in and say with that appraisal, which should support the mortgage that goes to that property.
I can give you two perfect examples to say what you're saying is not exactly correct. One is the post office, and the other one is right across from Mezcal. Those are the two most recent that they have put in almost $500,000 into the buildings, and the buildings were valued at nothing compared to what they put into the building. So would you agree with that proof that your previous statement is not exact?
Which way? Valued at nothing compared to...
The building sale versus how much they need to put into it to run a very successful business.
Right, but if you pay $100,000, you put $500,000 into it, what's it worth? In the case of the post office.
Well, it's...
Who knows?
The valuation of the building could, of course, go up, but I'm saying the building is valued at $100,000, and when they buy it for $500,000.
But that's not what happened.
It's very close. I mean, I'm exaggerating only to keep the numbers very easy to do in this conversation, but it's almost identical, especially with the amount of work that they put into it. It's way above that.
So if they get a mortgage for that property and you're telling me an appraiser...
No, I'm saying not a mortgage. They bought what they bought it for, regardless of if they got a mortgage or not.
Well, but they probably did get a mortgage. Generally, that's what happens in the real estate
These two didn't
market.
get a mortgage.
Well,
It's cash.
okay.
So I'm just throwing out that you said that doesn't happen, and I just gave you two examples that it does happen.
But when they
In
fill
town.
out this sales validation questionnaire, they have to put down what they thought was the value of the real estate portion.
So
The other
you're basing
stuff
it
is-
on, you're agreeing then that you're basing it on that piece of paper and not an actual approach of actual value of replacement according to this Franklin County evaluation report.
I'm saying when they fill out the sales validation questionnaire, they have to tell us what they paid for the real estate. If they don't have an appraisal, if they paid more based upon their business model, then some of that value is blue sky, intangible, whatever you want to call it. But it's not the value that they would have paid for the real estate. They should put $100,000. And then the other stuff is basically between you and Uncle Sam.
And again, I'm only basing, you keep leading back to that one piece of paper. And that's my concern. If we're basing the three, what do you call these again? Sorry. These three approaches, and we're using only the cost approach, and you're basing it on that one piece of paper, it's incredibly relevant to the entire process of what we're doing today. Would you agree or disagree?
I'm saying that the main one we use is the cost approach because you haven't provided, and we typically don't get income and expense information, and we don't do a sales comparison approach per se, although we look at sales.
And so when you're wrong on this cost approach, what happens?
You have a wrong value.
So can you walk me through the remedy process when you're wrong either way? What happens?
If you're wrong on this, and in the case of this type of building, all I can tell you is that we start with the information that the state gives us in the computer system.
Some bureaucratic computer system that's never been in the building.
Well, whatever.
Do you agree or disagree? These people have not been in the building that built the software.
What's the point?
The point is to find out how credible this information is and how obscure it could be, and it doesn't have anything to do with reality.
But that's what we're talking about. Do you have anything that says this is not correct?
You can't prove a negative. That makes no sense. Do you have anything that proves this is not correct?
Can you prove that 400,000 isn't a good starting point?
Can you prove that it is? That's more a question.
That's what this is.
This is a piece of paper.
That comes out of a state prescribed computer system.
I'm asking you to
that
think
every
only
county-
outside the box here and answer the question outside the box is this.
And that's what
Has
I'm saying.
anybody
When
that
we
built-
go through the motions and RCN less depreciation plus land value, the resulting cost approach based upon the state's analysis of county's work every year says that typically our values that are coming from the cost approach are within tolerance, if you will.
That's because nobody comes in here and does this. Nobody fights to say you're way off. This computer system is ridiculous.
That's not true.
It's okay. The number of people that come in is so minuscule that it does nothing to do to change the ridiculousness of the evaluation process that this software spits out for you to do your math.
And if they don't come in, they must think that the value that the county has
No,
is
they're not
correct.
smart enough to know what to do.
Oh, come on.
That's what it is. Let's be honest. Nobody has the time or the place. Nobody understands it. You have a difficult job in putting out there what the valuation of stuff is, and you have limited resources to do it. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm saying you're wrong in my case, and I'm asking you to look at it, reevaluate it to what my neighbors are, base it on the comps of what those property values are, because it falls in the cost approach. If the cost of replacing, we need to go through each one of my neighbors and we need to figure out what the cost value of approach it is, and I want every single one of these buildings. And then once I get that information, we can then justify and say, okay, what are the overall differences? Some buildings are better, some buildings are worse. And then we can come up to a fair valuation of what it is.
Well, I'm not prepared to do that. I mean, number one,
It doesn't have to be today.
we don't have the time to do it today, and we're not going to get to the
Right.
other building.
Sure.
If you
But
don't.
before the next taxes are due,
Mm-hmm.
I am asking it on record at this hearing to be done, and I think it's my legal right to do so that we can base the comps fairly and accurately upon all of the owners within the building. And we can go up and down Main Street for more cost differences. It's fair to
But
do.
you're doing an equity comparison, which is not germane. to
No,
the
I said
value of
specifically
this property.
appraisal. I said your appraisal value that you have on record.
And that information
I'm
is
not asking
online.
equity.
It is on. Well, it is. You know, all of these are. You're raising an equity issue. How these compare to yours? These have not sold, have they? Have any of these sold?
Of course not. Well, actually, I don't know. I don't know.
so
I know
then-
Danny Burnett right next to me
So
sold
then
his
how do
building,
you know
but he
that the
hasn't
values
changed.
are right or wrong?
I'm saying they're not. I'm saying my values are wrong.
And I'm saying you're based upon 135,000. Your value is a little high, but not that much higher than the sale price that you said you bought it for.
And so the exact same questions are going to be relative for the next parcel. And the next parcel is 107 North Main Street, parcel identification number 03008735010080005. That the valuation of that property being $152,000 and $152,590 once again is the highest valuation of almost any building within a 3-block radius of its comparable size. So out of proportion of its neighbors within the block between First and the Levee, so out of proportion that it is not only double than some, but a considerable amount more, $40,000 for comparable buildings. So once again, for that parcel, the exact same questions as the parcel previous. How the heck do we have such a massive difference in valuation? And are you going to go back and state that there was some sort of piece of paper signed upon purchasing the property about 4 years ago that stated that this is what it sold for, so that's what we're going to value it at, and that's how the taxes are going to come out? Is it the exact same answer?
Is that what happened?
I'm asking you.
Did you buy it in March of 16
Yes.
for $146,000.
I don't remember the purchase price at the moment.
You remember most everything else, but not the purchase.
I know what my mortgage is right now.
Danny Burnett is who you bought the property from.
That's for sure.
146,000 is what he indicated. What was your original mortgage amount? 80%? 70?
Maybe 125, something
Give
like
or
that,
take. Okay.
give or take.
So you had a
So let's say
65,
let's say it's
70%.
146,000, right? Again, how does that factor in to the overall Marshall and Swift replacement information, basing the valuation of the replacement of it, which has to do with the valuation, which has to do with how much taxes are being levied on it?
Well, again, that one is the same, virtually the same process. We start with
And
the
again, we don't need to.
replacement cost new.
Yeah, we don't need to do that.
We go through the depreciation, add the land value, and that
Is that the same one as this? Is that
it's the same format.
same format? But that's for the address we're talking about.
This is for the address we're talking about.
So we're valuing that building identically. In what year was that constructed? Where do you have that?
What was it? 1900, same. That's not wrong.
Can't be right.
That's not wrong.
Because the flood in '56 took out most of these.
107 North Main. That's all one story, right?
Yes.
Well, it has a year built in 1900.
I just can't understand that being correct, but okay. So it's half the story as the previous, so which means physically half the brick and mortar, but it is almost double the width. Right?
Double the what?
The width is
Oh.
about 50
Yes.
versus 25. But still, you're valuing that building specifically identically. Is that what I'm looking at on this particular piece of paper?
Just gonna pull that one out.
Could you tell me what this piece of paper is right here, please?
This is a cost report. The other one was. where
Oh,
was the
okay.
other
This
one?
this is Liberty. This is 111 you're looking at here. Okay.
This is
That's why it's
107.
identical. Okay.
This is 111. It's not. We may have been looking at the 111 or the 107 previously, with the 408,000. But again, the format is relatively is identical. We start with replacement cost, less depreciation, add land value.
Okay. So this right here, you gave me when we were talking about 111. You gave me the paperwork for 107.
I was just wondering what that.
Do you
was
have the
like.
paperwork for 111? I can't believe you're saying this is one of my buildings. I have $1 million in valuation between my two buildings. That is absolutely asinine. Makes
$1
no
million
sense.
in cost?
In replacement cost.
If you would replace those
Right.
buildings, it would cost you probably close to that.
No way.
Well,
Come on. Don't sell me on that. So do you have the actual?
the other one.
Okay, thank you.
Here's the other one.
It's just a
Do
different.
you want this sheet too?
Oh yes, please.
Okay.
Thank you. So it is a different looking cost value report.
It's the same format.
It's the same
It's
format.
just different numbers.
Different numbers printed out a little differently. Okay. So it's the same software.
Yes.
Marshall and Swift. I just don't see Marshall and Swift on this one yet.
Okay.
Thank you.
Apologize for the mix-up. I didn't check to see that.
We're here to
those
talk
were
about
right.
both of them. I think it pertains. It's not that big a deal. Thank you, though. The problem question I have, pretty much to finish up my questions, are if one of these properties were to sell, for instance, for half what you listed as the appraisal value, would you agree or disagree that a new cost approach would be used on the valuation of the property?
It would be reviewed to make sure that we had the physical components correct. If they were, then chances are it wouldn't change. We would then look at whether the sale price was more or less than sales of other similar properties.
Okay, well, if that leads to another question, then in that, let's say something's destroyed, it has a problem with the roof, which is a $60,000 problem. Would you consider that in the valuation of the property?
The roof problem?
Right.
Yes.
You would?
Yes.
Okay, so if I have proof that shows that one of these buildings has a major problem with the roof, that's going to have an outstanding balance, a huge issue, plus it needs an entirely new $25,000 AC system.
There's two things. Number one, I would need a bid, some document that shows.
Oh,
this
absolutely.
is
I have an engineering
the
report.
cost to repair.
Absolutely.
And number two, whether or not the need to repair is imminent or not. If it's imminent, in other words, if it is so detrimental to the property, the property won't function.
Absolutely.
It's a cost to cure.
It's a guarantee.
issue. If it's not, then some portion of that cost to cure is a reduction in value. I mean, that's how the market, if you were buying the property, that's what you would
Absolutely.
look at it.
Absolutely. Because I was sold a bill of goods by Danny Burnett. So the
On this building, on the 107.
on the pawn shop, yes,
Yeah.
107. So the problem in submitting that to you, would it be via email? Could I drop it off and get a receipt? Because an email will give me a receipt.
Email.
Okay.
If you want to do a return receipt,
No, an
don't-
email's fine.
Okay.
Because that'll give me a return receipt to know that you got it. Or you can just reply to it. I mean, it's just that easy.
Okay.
I think that concludes my questions, but I do have an outstanding.
Does this one have a roof problem like?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
The engineer has. I couldn't get any insurance replacement on it because it was a problem with the way Danny told the guy to cheaply replace the roof. He just patched it up just to sell the property.
Well, then the next question, hypothetically, you paid 140,
Honestly, I forget.
146. If you had a $60,000 repair that's imminent, needed, all those kinds of things, would you have paid 86,000?
I submitted it. I didn't find it out until afterwards.
Submitted it to.
So I submitted to the county almost
When you right
when I
after
found
that.
out. When I found out I had a roof problem, I emailed them. I believe I emailed them because I know I didn't physically drop it off. I called and then said, "Hey, there's a huge issue here. I think it could be 20,000." Now it's way above that because of the engineering report. And both my
20
air
to
conditioners,
60, pick
both
your
of
number.
my 3-phase air conditioners on top during the last when we had the flood, the power came on and off so bad it blew them out, and I got to replace them. I've tried everything. It's really a huge dollar amount.
Yeah.
So when it comes down to valuation of the property, and I do see that cooling air, warming, all that stuff has a lot to do with it.
Right.
We need to at least address that part of it. But I am adamant that I'm not going to let go on how come my neighbors are so drastically less with comparable pieces.
And
So I'm asking you to look at that.
I'll look at
And can you give me maybe 4 months before the next tax time comes around that you might be able to look at this?
Two things. Number one, the valuation notices for 2020 are going to be going out in about 3 weeks.
And they can be adjusted, you agree?
I've got till next Friday to make adjustments, and I have all of these to do for next year before I.
Oh, I'm saying the valuation notice, I understand you're going to have to get those out.
Right.
But the valuation notice versus the time the taxes are paid on May 10th.
You can't change anything between that point and the time the tax bills. That really is the starting point for 2020 tax bills. So the only remedy you would have as far as value is the same thing we're doing here. File a payment under protest, pay the first half at least, and then come in and talk about it. But I can only talk about yours. I can't do an equity comparison at that point in time. And if theirs are too low, obviously they're not going to file an appeal. I mean, their value is too low. If it's too high, we'll talk to them. But you got to go. The county has to go through those other things that I talked about.
So what recourse do you recommend?
Recourse to
get my taxes lowered by my valuation lowered. Because again,
Doing
you don't talk
exactly
about
this.
taxes, you talk about valuation.
I talk about valuation, and that lower valuation results in a lower tax bill or a refund of a tax in the case of whatever you paid.
So you're saying the valuation notice may not be adjusted, you may not get to it in time, but
Which year? 2020 valuation notice, I may not get to it because I have to be done by next Friday.
but you're saying specifically if it's not done in time, I could get a credit when it's adjusted.
On your property.
Of course.
Yes.
Oh yeah, I'm only talking about my properties.
Yes. Well, okay.
Yeah, I'm not talking about anybody else's properties. As far as
But you're talking about
far as their credit and lowering their taxes, I'm not talking about that, or
Okay.
lowering their valuations.
Okay.
I'm only talking about lowering valuations and lowering taxes on the 2 properties and parcels I've talked about today.
And based upon information that would have an impact or a direct bearing on the value of your property, yes, I can look at that. And hopefully I can look at that for not 2019 an adjustment to your payment and protest, but to the 2020 notice before it goes out next Friday.
Okay, so I will get you the 2 things, email them to you on the 1 property, as far as the 107 North Main Street.
The physical, the whatever, the HVAC and the roof. The other, I would like to clarify or clean up the issue on the sale price, the price paid for the 111.
And again, I have a hard time understanding why that particular approach is only used when we do have appraisal comps, which would be number 2.
I wouldn't disagree with that, but again, the state's computer system doesn't have a sales comparison approach. Like
And I'm asking Gene's approach that he uses. You are the one that stated these are the approaches that you use. And you are the one that is solely determined. You're the final person that makes the final determinations with all the valuations.
Well, I'm not the final. The county appraiser has that ultimate authority. But
So what's your title?
The county appraiser.
You just said the county appraiser has the final determination.
The county appraiser is ultimately responsible for the values.
And you just said you're the county appraiser.
No, I didn't.
I'm sorry. What's your title?
I'm a commercial real estate appraiser. I'm just helping Franklin County out in doing their commercial valuations.
So I'm not meeting with the county appraiser.
No,
And who's the county appraiser?
Jamie Wilson.
And why didn't Jimmy meet today?
What's
Because
that?
that's who I requested. I requested the county appraiser. How come this wasn't told to me from the very beginning? I'm absolutely fit to be tied.
Where did you request the county appraiser?
I was told specifically at this appointment confirmation hearing that I would meet. This is what I was told when I signed the paperwork. I would meet with the county appraiser. Okay, how do I request now a whole nother hour with the county appraiser?
You don't.
You're saying there's no way to request a meeting with the county appraiser?
Well, that's ultimately up to the county appraiser if he wants to hold another hearing, but this was your hearing. What difference would it make?
Because the final arbiter in the decision-making process is not here on the table.
Well, but the county appraiser hired me to do the values and to do the hearings.
Jamie, what is the name?
Wilson.
Wilson? Is that a man? Do you have a business card? Is it a woman?
It's a man.
Man.
Yeah.
I'm the county appraiser. Hi.
Hi.
I'm Jamie Wilson.
Why didn't I meet with you today?
Because Gene's doing the commercial.
I asked specifically when I filed this form to have a hearing to meet with the county appraiser.
Gene was county appraiser in Wyandotte County for a decade.
I'm asking for Franklin County currently that appraised my valuation of my buildings.
Gene did that.
Okay,
Because
so you are the final decision.
Well, we're going to both sit down and we're going to make a determination based on what he's discovered through the hearing. And
So there's no way, you're saying legally, there's no way I can file a hearing for an appointment with you if I'm not satisfied with who you hired to value.
Well, if you're not satisfied with the result that you get on the back of the form that you receive as notice of the hearing, with the notice or the final result, there's instructions on how you can take it to small claims to the Board of Tax Appeals.
Okay.
So there is another level.
So I
after
can
this.
sue the county, I can sue you, and I can sue Gene all together.
After this, you go to small claims.
Well, that's
And
suing,
then,
right?
And then, well, I'm sorry.
That's suing, right?
No, this is nowhere near suing.
Small claims is filing suit.
No,
which
it's
is
the
suing.
small claims of the Board of Tax Appeals. They have different levels. There's the informal level where people discuss the issues at the county level. And then at small claims, they have a hearing officer that sits and he listens to the evidence from both the property owner plus the representative for the county. And then if the person or if either party isn't satisfied with what happens at small claims, they have a
It's a
they have
constant
a
process for
three-person board.
appeal.
Yes, sir. Yeah, we
Yeah,
have
yeah,
a three-person board
right.
that sits and
Right.
they make a determination.
Okay, I get it.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. So next time I would need to file, how do I get to sit with you?
Well, I'm sorry. Are you?
Yeah, you just left.
I'm sorry. I thought.
Yeah, you just left.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I thought you were still talking to Gene.
No, we were actually looking at each other in the eye, and you rudely left the room. That was pretty rude.
Gene is my commercial appraiser. I hired Gene because
I'm specifically asking the question. No offense to
Okay,
interrupt
sure,
here.
sure.
How do I get an appointment with you?
Well, you can certainly speak to me about this, but Gene's the expert on this particular property because he did the cost, he did the depreciation.
How do I get a meeting with both of you then?
Well, we can certainly sit together, but Gene.
Okay, we'll see what happens with this hour plus long.
Sure.
And maybe we do need to sit down again, but I was told, and I have on recording, that I cannot request a meeting with you. That's what Gene just said.
It doesn't make sense to speak with me. Are we still on being recorded?
Absolutely, it's my legal right.
Okay.
It protects me.
Gene is my commercial appraiser because we split the residential portion and the commercial portion. He's had extensive experience.
With all due respect, you're the brass tacks last person that is responsible for the valuations. Is that true or not?
Yes, we're both going to sit
Okay.
down and we're going to discuss the
Thank you.
valuations.
No,
and
I appreciate you
and his
answering.
findings during this process.
I appreciate you
And
saying
there
that.
will be, yeah. I mean, any of these decisions, we both sit down and we discuss what he discovered.
Right, but I don't have any legal recourse against Gene because he's not the county appraisal.
Why would you need legal recourse?
This is
sir?
all legal. This is government.
Well, you have
This
two
is
more
an
levels.
administrative
You
hearing.
have two more levels
It's not legal at
of
all.
appeal.
Yeah.
So-
I'm not saying I'm not going to use them. I'm
Oh
saying-
no, I'm not
I'm
gonna
asking
deny
only.
you those.
I'm asking only the question is this. The question is, I was told I could not have a meeting directly with you. Is that true or not?
You could have a meeting with me, but Gene would be involved in it.
That's
because
fine.
He's the one that does the
Gene's a nice
valuations.
guy. He can come.
Yeah.
I'm asking specifically to have a meeting with you. That's it. I was told no. Now I'm being told yes, but Gene will be there.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's yes.
What do you mean? Another meeting?
If we need to.
Sir, I mean,
If we need to. I'm not saying we need
no,
to.
no, I mean, I don't believe we need to. Gene and I are going to sit down and we're going to discuss
All right.
the findings during this, If there's any changes that need to be made, there'll be changes
Well, I
made.
appreciate
but-
it. Thank you.
but
I
we
just
both
needed to know that
collaborate.
answer because
We
it
collaborate
didn't make
on
sense to
this.
what I know. You
No,
know.
we certainly collaborate on these decisions with commercial hearings.
All right, that's fine.
Sure.
Yeah, that's fine.
On the 111, did you rent it to the people who ran the Unwind
Yes.
business?
Yes.
How long did they stay in there?
As the property owner, not quite a year.
Okay. What did you rent it for at that point?
$1,200 a month.
Okay. Was there an upstairs apartment?
It's
or
not
anything?
finished. No, I wish there was
Just a
apartments.
loft,
You want to give me apartments? That'd be nice. No, it's just a
Open
whole.
loft.
hmm
Okay.
Yeah, just storage, if you will. The whole place is storage right now.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
If you can give
Thank
me
you.
that.
I'm sorry if you need to go do something. You just left real quick. I don't mean to
Well,
take any more of your time.
I explained the process. I assume.
I don't mean to take
just
any more
wanted
of
to
your
make
time.
sure. I just want to make
Thank
sure
you.
you knew your further appeal process. So, and I assumed we were done, and I do apologize. I
appreciate
there
you
was
saying.
there was no offense intended, but I just
And-
thought that we were complete.
Water under the
So,
bridge. Thank you.
good.
Email me that stuff
I will.
as soon as you can.
I will.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Talk to you later.